All right, that looks pretty good right there. So the first thing I had to do here was I had to dig 3 holes, and for each hole the goal was to dig down to 30 inches. And the reason I wanted to dig down 30 inches was because I was going to put 6 inches of gravel for drainage. So the post itself will actually go down a total of 24 inches. My next step was to cut a notch into my posts. My posts are 10 feet, they're 4x6s. So by cutting this notch into the post, I'll be able to put an arm that extends 2 feet out from the post. So I cut several slices into the wood. Now at this point I'm just going to go ahead and break all these slices off. Some parts can be a little bit more stubborn, but the goal is to try and get that notch as flush as possible and break apart any of those little fragments that get left behind. Next I am going to cut out the overhang, the part that's going to stick out from the post. And I'm using a stopper here at the end so that way each one of these arms will be the exact same length. They're all 3 pieces and they're all exactly the same length. The next step is to go ahead and take the posts and insert them down into the hole. And as you do that, I kind of pack down the gravel a little bit, but the main thing is to try and get it as plumb, so that means try to get it as vertical as possible. So I'm going to use my leveler here to make sure that I am perfectly level on both the front and the sides of the post here. Once it looks plumb, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and attach a 2x4 on both faces of the post, so that way it'll help secure the post into this position and keep it from moving around. And the last thing to kind of lock everything in place is I'm going to go ahead and put these stakes down into the ground. And once they're staked into the ground, I'm going to go ahead and drill them to the 2x4s, and that'll secure everything in place, and that way the post will stay nice and secure. As you can see, this side looks nice and level, as well as the other side. After getting everything nice and secure, I went ahead and used 3 50-pound bags of this post cement per post. Now, according to the instructions, it said that you can go ahead and pour everything in dry and then add the water afterwards. You don't need to pre-mix any of this stuff, which is what I did. However, what I came to realize is that method did not work. So each bag requires about a gallon of water. So I was going to pour in 3 gallons of water. I was going to pour it in a little bit at a time, let it seep down, and then add more water until I used up all 3 gallons. This did not work at all. What ended up happening was that the dry mix becoming too compact, and it wasn't allowing the water to actually absorb and seep in. The water was mainly just sitting at the top. So I essentially had 150 pounds worth of dry mix in this hole, and the water was just sitting on top of that. Some of it kind of seeped in, but when I tried to add more water, it just was not going in. Some of the water was just getting lost by being absorbed into the dirt around the hole. So I figured I'd take a rebar and try to poke some holes down into the hole as much as possible, so that way maybe some of the water can travel down those holes. But what ended up happening is that at the surface level, at the very top, where the water was coming in contact with the cement, it was already starting to harden. So the top layer was hardening without any of the water penetrating all the way down into the post. So I took my post hole digger and I tried to break up that hardened top layer as much as possible to try and help the water kind of seep in a little bit more, and to kind of try and get it to mix a little bit simultaneously. That did kind of help. I did notice I was starting to get a little bit better of a mixture, but it was still a very hard process to try and get this stuff to absorb any more water. And I tried to mix it as much as I could, but at this point there was very little I could do to correct this mistake here. Alright, so it's been about 24 hours. And there's the first post. I wasn't able to get the full 3 gallons. I got about 2, maybe 2.5 if I'm lucky there. But, I mean, this thing's pretty solid. So if you take a look at this second hole, that's all cement right there because there was an old fence post here. So I had to use my rotary hammer to chisel away and break all that cement off before I can dig more of the hole here. I just want to address this. So something weird about this old post that used to be here, this is old fence post, is that they did put cement around the post, but it didn't go all the way down. You can see how the post goes down pretty far, but they only put cement like maybe halfway down, but there's no cement under that. So very odd. If you see the string right here, I ended up putting the second post. I haven't put in the cement yet, but the goal here was to make sure that the notches line up, so that way both notches are level with each other. And so by tying the string around them, I put the string at the bottom of the two notches, and then I put it right there under the string, and right here under the other side of the string, just enough so that way it barely touches. See, I'm just about level there, a little bit off, but it's close enough. So something I can do different with this post compared to the first post is that instead of putting all 3 bags in at once and then trying to fill it in with water, I'm gonna alternate here. I'm gonna do 1 bag, water. 2nd bag, 2nd gallon. 3rd bag, 3rd gallon, okay? All right, so the method of alternating between water and bags of concrete seemed to have worked out a lot better. Now over here on the first post, you can see that I went ahead and put the overhang here. Now the post is a 4x6, this is a 4x4, and as you can see, I see it right there a little bit in the center. I notched both so that way they sit kind of flush with each other. Now this right here is 2 feet. Pulling strong as is. After the cement had cured, what I went ahead and did next was I applied some wood glue into the notches of the posts. So now I can go ahead and insert the overhang or the arm that's going to stick out here into that notch. I went ahead and hammered that in. I did use a rubber mallet to not put any dings or damage to the wood here. Then I used some stainless steel screws on both sides to help secure this joint and just to make it a little bit stronger and help reinforce it a little bit more. Alright, so I have the 3rd post in place. I haven't put in the cement yet, but I ended up buying one of these string levels here, and see how it's a little bit off, but nothing too bad. And then here in this middle post, I am off by like maybe 1/4 of an inch or so, but in the grand calculus of the multiverse, I think it should be good enough. I have my diagonal brace here. You see, going like so, and then I'm just going to go ahead and put some glue on here, and I'm going to attach it on before I put in screws. Alright, so as you can see, I have the diagonal brace here, and I'm using this strap to hold in place. It's kind of sucked doing it by myself, but it worked. I also put glue here where the wood comes into contact. Now I'm just going to go ahead and screw them into place. Alright, so I'm going to be using 6-inch screws for this. Alright, so all my supports are in place for all 3 posts. The last thing I have to do is I'm just going to run this board across, connecting all 3 posts. Makes it a lot sturdier, and the egg chairs are actually going to hang from this 2x6. So the hardware is actually going to go into this 2x6. Alright, so now I'm going to mount the hardware here. I'm going to put a bolt through this. All right, so I have 3-inch bolts here. Go in this order. So the bolt will go in from the top, and then big washer is going to sit on top. Underneath is going to be little washer, lock washer, and then the nut. Now the lock washer is because the lock washer helps with vibrations. Since the egg chair is going to be moving and swinging around a lot, this will help from the bolt loosening from all the vibrations. Alright, so to kind of go over a couple of things that I've done now is, as you can see, I laid down some landscaping fabric. This is to help prevent weeds from growing in here. And then I also started filling in with some rocks as well. Now as far as the posts go, I added a little bit extra post cement in here. As you can see, it kind of slopes up. And the reason I did that is that way when it rains, the water doesn't sit and accumulate here at the base of the post, because that's what promotes rot. This way the water can trickle down from the edges of the post, so that way it elongates the life of the post. You can see I did it on all 3 posts. So again, now I'm just gonna fill the rest of this in. Alright, so I have all the rocks laid in, but last thing to do is just to hang up the egg chairs. Done. Finally complete. That is it. I'm done with this project. So overall, this project took me about a week to complete, but that also involved a lot of Home Depot trips and dry times, you know, getting stuff off of Amazon and whatnot. But there it is. That's what it looks like. All right, so with these egg chair setups, all right, so I'm gonna go ahead and sit down. Ugh. There you go. It's pretty good right there. I have a little space in the back for a little bit of swing, but you know, not too much. Ropes holding up just fine. Posts are nice and sturdy. Not feeling any shifting, or even looking at the posts, they don't really move. So that means that they're plenty strong. They're not going to come down anytime soon. Let's try out this next one. There you go. This one's just as good. Okay, that's a little bit of shake there, but I'm not scared for my life kind of thing though. So that's good. All right, now I'm gonna try out this last one. All right, so pretty good. Pretty happy with that. It's good enough right there. A couple extra little things that I want to mention is that I did end up actually going with 5 of these square caps here at the bottom. I just thought it kind of broke up the rock look there a little bit, so I think that's a nice little touch there at the bottom. Now this little part right here, this little chunk of dirt, that's actually where the sprinkler is, so I had to leave a gap there, but that kind of worked out because it's right in the center, so it's not too bad. As far as the rope goes, this is a polypropylene rope.
Keep Hop? Keep Hop Anonymous?
I don't know, it's some kind of like synthetic rope. So it's really good for outdoor use. It resists mildew and rot and stuff like that, so it can withstand the elements up really well. I have this on my pergola swing, and this rope has been here for about 4 years and I haven't had any issues with it. Still holding up plenty strong. It also has a 700-pound working limit. So the way it kind of goes is that the egg chair, I think the egg chair can hold up to 330 pounds. So the egg chair will actually fail before the rope fails, and then the rope will fail before any of the hardware fails, which kind of leads to the hardware probably failing around the same time that the wood would fail. So it's kind of a linear progression, which is what I want, because I don't want the wood or the hardware to fail before any of this stuff, because that could probably cause more injury. Now the egg chairs do come with their own hardware. They do come with their own chains, and they also come with their own carabiners. They even have a mounting hook, but I didn't want to use those things. I wanted to go for a more natural look, so which is why I went with the rope. Now the reason I went with this kind of rocking hook is because since it rocks back and forth, it takes away from a lot of the dynamic load that gets put onto the wood, so it creates less stress for the wood, and it's also less wear and tear on the hardware just in general. And then after that, I just use the bowline knot to secure the egg chair at the bottom and to secure it to a hook up here at the top. And then during the winter time or whenever these aren't in use, I can simply just unclip these and I can go ahead and store them. Now I also have a secondary reason for this project aside from the aesthetics and the leisure aspect of it, is that about 2 years ago this span here of my fence ended up falling over after a harsh winter. So I wanted to put something here to help kind of reinforce this, so that way if this fence ever starts going bad and it ever starts leaning towards my fence, I have these extra posts here to help support it. So if you look at the egg chairs and you look at the aesthetic and the color, it matches the outdoor furniture that I have here, as well as the 7-seater that I made about 2 years ago. So it all matches. And even the little chunk of landscaping that I have here, as well as a little bit of landscape that I have underneath the 7-seater, it all matches. It all matches, so the looks have a consistent flow throughout the yard. So each chair can support about 300 to 330 pounds. So I don't have other people here at the moment so that way each chair can be tested simultaneously. I can only test one chair at a time. But what I can do is take a couple of dumbbells, 50 pounds each, so now I'm at 285. I'm going to go ahead and sit in each one of these chairs, see what happens. Oh, I heard something. Alright, so a little bit of bounce, but overall I think it's fine. Seems fine. I mean, as I bounce in it, I can see the posts kind of sway a little bit, but not a lot. But overall, I think it should be fine. If it doesn't, I'll make a follow-up video once you guys know where I fudged up. Alright, so hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video and this project. This has been Household Journeys. Take care, people.